Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome back to our channel once again. And it is my hope and prayer that the video is going to find you guys in good health. Personally, I am fine, as you can see. Kisumu is fantastic, and maybe you could also let me know where you're watching the video from, the county or the country, in case you are out of the republic. And for this particular video, please let me know the name of the primary school you schooled in. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday there was a very interesting article in the Star newspaper. Smart people read the Star. In that article, the Star newspaper revealed that according to the Ministry for Interior, they've discovered that over 1.5 million adults in Siaya, in Migori, in Homa Bay, and in Kisumu do not possess national identification cards. And most of these people are between the age of 30 years to 60 years. Ladies and gentlemen, in politics, nothing happens out of mere coincidence. Everything in politics is normally well planned, well scripted, and executed to achieve a specific political objective. What do you think was the objective which that article was intended to achieve? Raila Odinga passed on. We all know that the reason Raila Odinga never became the president of the Republic of Kenya is because his votes were always stolen. Because the people of Nyanza were never registered as voters. But now we are talking of a new revelation. Many adults not registered. Personally, I can confess that in 2012, I was the national coordinator for a group calling itself the ODM Youth 2012. During our tour of the country, we decided to move to our strongholds. We wanted to increase the number of voters who are going to vote for Raila Odinga. And when we started visiting the coastal region, something emerged, and it was serious. That you'd meet very old people, you'd meet people our age at that time who are not able to get IDs. As part of our discussions, we went and met with Raila Odinga, who was the prime minister at that time. Raila Odinga then referred us to the late Gerald Otieno Kajwang. This is a true story. When we went to Kajwang, we explained to him what we wanted, and he agreed to facilitate us with the registrations team, those what IDs, to go to the coastal region. The government got wind of this. We could not register those people to acquire IDs because they knew that coastal region was part and parcel of Raila Odinga support base. And if those people were to facilitate to have IDs, they were going to vote for Raila Odinga. I'm thinking that probably in Nyanza, because I remember I used to have a cousin of mine who had a bit of problem acquiring ID because the father could not get ID until very late, I think. So this story could actually be true. And anybody who's been following the politics currently, you should have noted that in Nyanza, we are witnessing very long lines of people registering for voters. And now with this story, an objective is intended to achieve. In this video, I want us to talk about the objectives which that headline intended to achieve. Before we do that, for those who are watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click the subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support. Because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. Ladies and gentlemen, what are some of the objectives which that story is intended to achieve? Number one, I'm looking at the 2027 rigging schemes. I don't want to call it rigging schemes. Let me call it electoral justice. The truth of the matter is that as much as people blamed Raila Odinga and the Luo leadership, for example, of not registering, of not encouraging people to register as voters, the truth is many people always registered as voters. Those who had IDs. But a huge number did not have. I remember in, was it in 2013 now, during the voter registration, the IBC were doing very funny things. Huh? For example, in Kisumu here, you know, you'll be told that on this particular day, there'll be station in sports ground. People would go to sports ground, then they are not there. Then they are in Dunga. And those games were played. And at the same time, if you observed whatever was happening in Jubilee stronghold at that time, that is Rift Valley and Mount Kenya, people were being facilitated even in their villages, in their homes. People were being registered there. So the truth is, this is part of a rigging scheme. Someone somewhere has sat down and realized that Nyanza people were not registered to vote, and they are going to be registered. And therefore, if the voter turnout in Nyanza, if the numbers of registered voters in Nyanza will increase, nobody will deny. Nobody. Because you are seeing people on the streets lining up to vote. You are seeing people going to acquire IDs. How will you then deny that those numbers are fake? How? The truth is, which brings me to my second point. There has always been voter suppression in Nyanza and voter suppression in most of Raila Odinga's services and in most of Raila Odinga's strongholds. That is, for example, the coastal region, northern Kenya. If Ruto is targeting these regions for his 2027 election, then you'll expect him not to allow those suppression to continue. Those are the facts. In fact, there has always been the issue. For example, those who are here long enough, you'll realize that at some point, there were even people, very young people, who are registered as voters in this country. They had not even attained the age of 18. We saw their cards at some point in the history of the Republic of Kenya. So the fact is, there has always been suppression of voters in Raila Odinga's strongholds. Why would someone now want to correct that about 2027? And the other fact which is there, and we can't run away from it, there has always been exaggeration of numbers, especially in Jubilee, in that quotes, strongholds. This began in 2007 up to the last election. Because in 2013, William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta were elected under the banner of tyranny of numbers. Someone somewhere had to sit down and come up with a tyranny of numbers. In fact, even in the last election, people have always advanced the narrative that the reason Raila Odinga did not win is because some people in Nyanza did not turn up to vote. I've always doubted that, because if you want to get the answer to that, you just need to go to IBC portal. There's always what is called trend. Just get the number of voters registered in Muranga, for example, and the number of voters registered in, say Uasin Gishu, because those voted for Ruto in the last election. Then take two Nyanza counties and compare the turnout. You realize that the turnout in Nyanza were even much higher than the other side. That's the honest truth. If you just take your time and check the voter turnout, because the voter turnout is normally national. If it's 50, 60, that's normally the range. So you can't say that the people of Nyanza turned up 71%, and because of that, Raila lost, while the people of Rift Valley also turned up 71%, but Ruto won. So it has always been used to exaggerate the numbers. And lastly, based on that story, I can confidently confirm to you today that William Ruto's re-election is now being shifted from Western Alliance, the Luo Nation, which Ruto was initially banking on, now to the Luo Nation. And apart from the Luo Nation, I think the focus will now also shift to the coastal region. In short, William Ruto is going to bank fully on his re-election, on the support of the Luo Nation. The only problem he's going to face is if he will register the Luos, which is just to correct the mistakes, historical injustices, and these guys are given IDs, and then they turn against him. That's the only time William Ruto is going to face it rough. I don't know what you think, but that's my take. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Bye-bye.